And we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to SpiritSide Chats. And it's so good to have you all.
Hello. Good to be here. Namaste.
Namaste.
Greetings.
We have someone new
Hello,
joining
it's
us
good to be
today, Mr. Devin. Yay.
Good to meet all of you. I can't wait to see where this goes today. I can't wait to learn all kinds of new stuff.
It should be a really good one. So, as we normally begin, we usually start with an opening meditation, and then we'll jump into the topic from there. So, hey, Karen, welcome. Glad to have you. So yeah, we're just starting our opening meditation.
Karen, good to see
you. Would anybody like to do the honors, or shall I take it this week?
I would have loved to, but I'm currently walking around a shopping centre, so I don't think it's going to be very good to meditate, but would love to hear you do one, Jordan.
Let's do it. Okay. Start by taking a deep breath. You may close your eyes if you like, or just be mindful in a shopping center. And now as you breathe deep into your belly. Focus on that sacral, that emotional self. Let your whole awareness move into this emotional state, the awareness of your emotions. You might notice that as you breathe and feel, you're aware of more than just what's within you, because you're connected to those around you. And in this connection, we find limitless strength. We also find a shared connection to the struggles that we go through. Continue breathing. And now bring your awareness to the differentiation, the distinction between what's yours and what's others. We often hold on to each other's dramas and traumas, especially because we want to lift them up and help them through it and be there for them. But we can be there for them from a place of our own stability. We can't process other people's stuff for them. Each of us has to be our own processor for our own stuff. So breathe into that. And now, with the identification of your emotions, the light and the dark within, with every inhale, now gently raise that within you. Lift that feeling, lift these emotions up through your solar plexus and into your heart, where they're transmuted by the fire of the solar plexus and purified in the heart, bringing you into a state of inner balance, peace, and calm. Notice how your breath becomes smoother, deeper, longer. How your body relaxes in the presence of a shining heart. Your shining heart. And your connected heart to everyone and everything around you. So that it's about being love, embodying love, and simply giving it through the natural state of being to those that you encounter on your journey. Holding a state of forgiveness and compassion to those that you've struggled with, had strife with, because you know deep down that everybody is hurting and everybody just simply wants to be loved. And it's from this new space, this higher space, that we can be that for everyone and anyone who needs us. Take one last deep breath and open your eyes. Bring yourself back. Retain that heart, thump thump, shining bright. And put a smile on your face. Because a genuine, authentic smile is one of the best ways to shine light and shine love, give love to anybody, whether they need it or not. Namaste. Thanks for meditating with me.
Namaste. That was fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Found it especially relevant right now with what's happening. I'm surrounded by a lot of people, and everyone's sort of rushing about their business, and it was very centering. And I was just giving love, walking around, and like just as you said at the end, smiling at people smiling. It was very kind of seeing the direct result of what you were saying happening around me. And sometimes I'm closing my eyes and giving love, and open my eyes and I'm giving love to hula hoops, and I just start laughing. But thank you, that was good.
Thank you, Anthony, for the review. And I'm so glad that it's like the waves are going out, So that meditation, I kind of just tailored specifically to the theme of today's call a little bit, which is this whole empath movement a little bit, like the empath in all of us. But like, what is an empath, And I've been doing some research and watching some videos on this, and it's very interesting because it seems like there's two things happening. One of them is really the awakening, like people becoming more sensitive, more in tune, more connected to everybody around them, and being able to feel and kind of take on the emotions of others, like as if we're in an ocean and we're all drops of water in the ocean and there's no separation between them. between the drops. It's how they're made up together. So we're all this big collective field, and sure, like we all have our own little H2O molecular, structure, but we're even seeing, like the particle, the atoms can move freely between the structures of H2O, so that they're even blending together. So that's one thing that's happening. The other thing that's happening is actually it was related. I related it with How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's that classic book, which is that everybody wants to be important, because there's a sort of a movement now. It's like the empath sort of phenomenon is sort of replacing what psychic was over the past 20, 30 years, sort of thing. Like people are like, I'm an empath and I do readings and stuff like that, and some people are doing more, trying to use the ability, whether it's practiced or not, to gain a reputation. And like that's kind of also how it's kind of looked at, I think, from the outside perspective of people who are not as sensitive, right? Like, oh, you're just, like trying to, you're picking up body language and telling me that you're intuitive, right? Because anybody could, that's really the big secret behind this whole thing, is anybody can read body language, can read emotions by simply practicing attentiveness and awareness and literally empathy, like practice being connected. And I think for some people it's more easier, comes more naturally than others. And there's a variety, I was reading like a variety of ways that people can become empathic, going through extreme childhood traumas, or going through particular events that causes them to have to like sort of increase the sensitivity within their body and their brain to be aware and alert to what's going on around them, more sensitive. But I think also like it's almost as if through the process of growth, through the process of spiritual evolution, we're just naturally becoming more in tune and more aware, because we're realizing, oh my goodness, we're just that more connected. So there's many different like angles and sides to the whole thing, and I'd love to open up this discussion and hear what everybody has to say about it. So if nobody jumps in, I'm going to do the talking stick. I like that laugh, Joshua. I think you're on the spot
now. I love this topic. Obviously, I might have written an article about it and I'm trying to write a whole book about the phenomenon. But I think that like you said, everyone's an empath, but I think that it's those events, those types of experiences that help us become aware that we are, right? And so sometimes it's trauma and sometimes it's compassion that inspires empathy. It could go either way. It depends on the individual and their own experiences and what inspires them to feel what the other is feeling. I mean, we all physiologically have the capacity through our mirror neurons. That's literally what their job is to, you see other human beings or other beings, and it's to imagine what it's like experiencing from their perspective. That's what mirror neurons do. And that's what gives us a lot of sense of why we wouldn't want to cut our own hand like that person cut their hand. It's when we see someone who falls, we know what it feels like to hit our bum that way. And I think that a lot of the problem with the term is just that it's emerging out of that whole psychic is fake that we had from 50s through the 90s, and now it's we're starting to get more and more science showing, oh well, there is this electromagnetic field the heart generates, we have mirror neurons, we have this, we have that, so there's all these interrelated systems. And I think that it's beautiful that the subject is empathy and we have that kind of science, because empathy is all about emotions. Emotions are layered. They're never one thing. They're always a dynamic soup of things, right? That was all I had. I just wanted to jump in because nobody was jumping in.
That was very good, Josh. Thanks. I'd like to jump in as well. Like, I really like to talk about all the topics we have in spirit science. I mean, it's kind of one of the only places to really get to talk about this sort of stuff. And so please shut me up if I talk too much or try and jump in too much. So I'm trying to step back a bit sometimes. But I think with the topic of empathy, I really see empathy as seeing the world through others' eyes, or even from the position of another object, or it's kind of you're with empathy, we're able to live countless lives, able to experience countless other forms of identity and everything that comes with that. And I think you can oppose empathy to judgment, really, because if we judge, we're seeing something from our own perspective, but imposing it on other people or other things. But if we empathize, then we really try to or the other being. But it's kind of, there's a subtle difference there. There's a difference where you're solely pushing everything from yourself, from your own experience outwards, or you're looking to and could be applied to another perspective. And there is a slight difference there. One is very self-centered. One is more servant to others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Devin, you just unmuted. Do you want to jump in here?
Well, a little bit. For me, empathy has always been a subject that's always been. I know I've been an empath since I was really, really young, but it seems to mainly only be when it comes to negative things. Like, my whole experience, I can only speak from my experience simply because I don't have that much of an experience. I'm sorry, I'm also nervous, so my apologies if I'm stumbling over my words. But
yeah, you're doing great, Devin. Carry on. You're doing great.
For me personally, it's less about being empathetic towards people's emotions because of like how they feel. For me, it's always been, how would I feel feeling what they feel right now? Like, where would it put me? What thoughts would it put me in? Where would it put me in their shoes? That's how I've always approached it, even when I was a younger child. But for me, the emotional part of it is very visceral. It's not just something that's in my imagination, because it affects who I am. It affects how I feel internally as well. And it just, I don't know. I guess I'm here today to see how other people deal with this, because some days I can't take it.
I hear you, man. Thanks for sharing.
I totally understand that.
So, Devin, do you? Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, Devin, I think you mentioned yesterday. Do you feel like there's kind of that empathy, that like you said in the beginning, you're focusing more on the negative, or you seem to empathize more with the negative. So, would you say that there may be a lack of positive influence in your life? Would I be correct in assuming that?
You definitely would. My dad, my parents, my siblings, me. It's just, when it comes to the people in my life, including myself, there's been a lot of negativity, especially from my own self, just because of how hard it is for me to connect, how hard it is for me to be close to things. But now that I'm older, it's like I see these things that were put in place for me to live through, and I see all these negative things that come up about it. But now that I can approach it from a more positive perspective, I think I'm more easily built to take in and feel negative people's negative emotions because of the fact that I'm built to understand them. I'm built to feel people. How do I put this? When someone's feeling their worst, I get it. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter who it is. You are at your worst.
And
I understand.
That's great, Devin. That's your greatest strength overall. I mean, it can be seen now as a weakness because, you know, you'll be sort of caught under the bus, you know, easily pulled down by other people's emotions. But if you can see and relate to them on that level, then all you need to do is fill yourself up with light. You need to fill yourself up with the feeling of happiness and contentment in your own life. And that then your cup will run over and you can see how to apply that and help other people. And if you have the capacity to see and understand, I think going forwards, you know, accept this negativity is around you, accept that things have been shit in the past, then that's the first step. That's the first step of that journey. And
gratitude.
Many journeys all at one time.
Gratitude towards myself and towards my past and towards all things around me, as well as things that are part of my future, whether they're good or not. That's what's really helped me deal with all the negatives that I tend to pick up throughout the day. It's just so long as I am thankful and mindful of thankfulness and mindful of the fact that everything that I have is a gift, it just, even when the bad stuff comes my way, it helps so much.
That's wonderful. Yeah, actually, this is perfect. I was just going to say, I want to hear from Aaron and Karen. Karen, you're unmuted, so take it away.
Oh my God, why am I unmuted? Hi, guys. So I kind of relate to all of you. Starting this topic, I never, ever, like before, identified myself as an empath. In fact, in the beginning, I did deal with a lot of like darkness and like dealing with like, just I'm like, why am I so like just dark as a person? Like, and I always had these dark dreams, and I don't know, I just like had to like try to understand what was going on, and like at the end of the day, it was me who was kind of like inflicting these like this darkness. I like ended up embracing this darkness and ended up like just like showing love. And this entire like journey, the more I study, the more I'm like mindful, the more I meditate, the more I like embrace and align to who I really am, the more empathic I have become. I find myself, everyone else is an empath, right? But I find myself being more empathetic more times than others. So when I am fully like with myself, I feel like, okay, like this is a space where I can kind of just like be this generator of love. And most of that time that happens like automatically, like I'm just vibrating at love, like, you know, and then people are just like, why are you always smiling and why are you always happy? I'm like, I don't know. Why would I not be like, what do you mean? What are you telling me, you know? So yeah, I mean, most of it is like I through dealing through the darkness, I feel like is the only way that being a light being, I can help through others through darkness, like, you know, because I've been through it, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, if I can be this angry child and, you know, kind of like go through this journey and you know, open up myself to becoming an empath and just becoming my spiritual self and aligning with myself, like, then, you know, I feel like anybody else can do it. And I feel like that is kind of like what like we're here to do, to heal each other. And like, and yeah, just being grateful, I feel like that's helped. You guys mentioned that. And then yeah, I've has changed me every day. I change every day. I feel like I change timelines to like this closer me, and I'm just like so grateful all the time. And like, and then yeah, like it brings all these, because becoming an empath brings all these like spiritual, beautiful, like empowerment, because we are divine beings and like we really can do beautiful things. And it really, it's just like, can be life-changing, as well as like there's a lot of like, I feel like we're getting a lot of help like from other beings. Other beings are actually like helping us, and it's like I'm just so grateful for the entire journey, for the darkness, for the light, and it's just like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That was awesome. I mean, for myself personally, I can just relate to what everyone's been sharing so far, just by saying like our ability to understand others really comes through the full depth of experience that we're able to relate to, you know, and we can share in deep experiences because we've walked through deep valleys, you know. But I also like really look at this as being a good sign too, to just refine the actual skill itself, going kind of back to more like that root cause of what is empathy. And for me personally, I'm really strongly able to not just like reading someone's body language, but actually physically feeling stuff within myself. If I'm upsetting another person, I'll get a surge through me. I'm like, oh yeah, I felt that. Like there's something there. Let's talk about that. Or whatever it might be. I mean, my biggest one was often when I was walking around, like whether that's down a sidewalk or through shopping malls or you name it. If ever I was in a public place, I was just, my thoughts wouldn't stop going. And 9 times out of 10, I'm like, this doesn't sound like me, but it sounds like I just heard a thought that another person thought about me. And I would get those continuously. And so I originally went through a process of trying to figure out how to like silence those thoughts, because I didn't particularly want to hear a lot of the things that other people were thinking about me, or my interpretation emotionally of what they might have been projecting towards me. It was a very difficult thing to get over. But then the way that I was able to kind of like look at it another way, of just saying like, this is a tidbit of information, an emotional resonance that you can use to learn from. Maybe like every time I get a negative thought projected towards me, my practice now is literally to send that person a loving thought in return, because no one gets that, right? Whenever you're walking around, you're doing something that you know you shouldn't do. You really just want that attention. You want that love. You want that togetherness. And so a lot of people turn to, we'll say, negative behavior because that's how they get attention. And they translate love as attention. And so they get love by disrupting others. And so I was immediately like, well, why don't I just give you love then? If that's what you're looking for, I can do that. And so my general practice nowadays is really trying deeply to understand, likewise, like walk a mile in that person's shoes. Like, what did that person have to go through to get to the level of trauma where they're literally okay within themselves thinking these thoughts? And that's a hard one. And as soon as you relate to a person on that level, it's just instantly like, well, now I can forgive you in a heartbeat because I know how much hurt you've gone through. Who wouldn't forgive you? And so to me, the empath is largely synonymous for just becoming more understanding and compassionate, and empathy being the channel in which we're able to literally physically feel the sensation of these peoples around us, that allows us to now go, it's like, okay, I'm feeling something here. This is very real. I'm not just thinking about it. Like, this is now physically affecting my body. Let's act upon this. Let's fix these problems, you know. And it's, I take it as like a calling card of like, hey, what are you paying attention to?
Super well said. Thank you. Also, welcome, Philip. Good to have you, man. So there's well, maybe we'll pass it to you here in a sec. There's someone in the chat, live chat, texting, who asks if we can speak about how to not be taken advantage of as an empath. I wanted Devin's got his hand up. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, let's bring it all in. And Philip too, if you have anything, please jump in at a moment.
And hi, Benoit.
Hey, Benoit! So good to see you.
Hello, Benoit.
Welcome.
Good day, good day.
So yeah,
Hello?
Devin, if you want to jump in, you had your hand up. We'd love to hear from you on it.
Yeah. So whenever it comes to standing up for yourself as an empath, lately I've been having to practice that a lot at work because my boss is a really, really negative person, and I happen to be his outside of work buddy. So he vents to me, we'll just call it that. In all reality, he's he's trying to get out against him aggressively, blah blah. And for me personally, as someone who's only his friend but also his boss, and all of his stuff is just off of the way he punched me in the face. The best way I've dealt with it personally is the fact that you can look the person in the eyes, passion, and need to look towards you is the fact that you are an empath. And on some level, they're coming to you because somewhere it's registering. You understand they're trying to understand how they feel. Look them in the eyes, let them get it out of their system. Nod your head because you do understand how they feel, and just tell them, hey, I get it. I'm here. I'm your friend. The problem, though, that I always run into is the fact that the boss likes to take things too far. So, and as an empath, trying to put a stop would be really, really hard. Because then, for me personally, that ensues conflict, and I hate ensuing conflict unless I'm working. Otherwise, the best way I've seen to do it is kind of just a I mean, when someone's feeling negative, is charging at you a lot of stuff. So darting running away. That's the only thing I can just have to do.
I'm not sure if this was the same for everybody. It was a little choppy, yeah, and it was a little hard. It was a little hard to hear everything that you said. But I wanted to say thank you for expressing it, and thank you for sharing it and like speaking your story. From what I got, which wasn't a lot, there's a lot of stuff happening. Yeah, let's give that a moment to see if we can get your internet a little bit more flowing. I want to ask Philip or Benoit if you guys had anything to add on that subject.
Was there a question that was asked? I think I may have come in just
You came in half a second before it, right? It was how to protect yourself as an empath.
I think it's interesting because empathy is like Joshua mentioned, these mirror neurons where we can sort of vicariously experience the emotions and other things that people are going through, whether it be good or bad. But we still have to be able to hold within our hearts some sense of security and stability, so that we're anchored in something that's not just going to be tossed around on the in the sea of everything that we experience outside of ourselves. So if you're in this sea of negativity and you're trying to relate to it and empathize with it, I think the greatest way that you can protect yourself is to is to feel that and to, you know, show those people that you feel that, and that you relate to it, and show them that you relate to it, but at the same time, have something centered within yourself that really anchors you down and really just is unwavering. You know, a sense of peace and a sense of, like you mentioned, Devin, a sense of gratitude, so that no matter if people try to take advantage of you, that's just not gonna it's not gonna be as easy for someone to sort of cast off their demons on you, because you know you've got your own protection, you've got your own sense of well-being. So yeah, just having that anchored heart in the light, and staying true to the love that we all have. I'm sure Benoit, you could probably add to that.
Yeah, well, something that came up for me was always recognizing that whatever is happening in the moment is part of what we're here to learn. And so that even if something seems to be negative or affecting us in a certain way, it's just remembering that ultimately it's our choice in how we respond to that. And no experience is explicitly good or bad. And that would be a way to stay centered, as you mentioned. Something good to remember. Yeah, empathy for me is it's a new frontier to really recognize that it's part of my experience, and that, you know, I've been doing it for a long time without really knowing. And I think the goal of that is to, as you mentioned, recognize the energy that is swirling around us in any given moment. And that is powerful because we can then connect with others and create bridges that unite us in that sense. And it can be overwhelming if you're not aware of what's going on. So the thing that keeps coming back is just this choice, is if we ever feel like something is not serving us or is not really working for us, it's just taking a moment. You know, I like to close my eyes, do a really quick visualization of, you know, taking in Mother Earth's support, sending it through my body, just to remind myself that I have this connection as an individual that doesn't need to also be attached to everything and everyone around me. And, you know, it just takes a moment to come back to that place. Doing that also reminds me, oh, right, I have the capacity to choose to take a moment and breathe. Therefore, I have the capacity to choose to walk away, or to engage in a different way, or to present something new, you know, whatever feels right in the moment. But I think it always comes back to this choice and our will to be here and to learn.
I'm super happy you brought that up, because we have a friend named Andy who shared with us one time, like we were just kind of hanging out here, and she was describing this long process, this long struggle that she had over a long time of picking up everybody's feelings, having this heavy feeling, having this, you know, like all of the negative emotions of everybody else really draining her. And she went to Reiki, and she went to acupuncture, she went to yoga, and all of these things, nothing. even talked to some psychologists, I think, and just like never got anywhere. And then one day, a friend of hers was like, I don't remember specifically, how it came out, but the friend of hers said, listen, you can only take on the emotions of others if you want to. Mm-hmm. And instantaneously, it was like an aha moment in her brain. She's like, I can turn it off. But she was trying to turn it off, or like, create a shield. She's doing, like a shielding meditation and aura field and all this stuff or whatever. But it was like going right into the core within the consciousness and going, no, and it kind of made me think, like, some of the things that you guys have been sharing was like, that grounded in the I am presence. And I was kind of thinking about it from the perspective of like a flower or something out in nature, a tree, for example, or whatever, and a tree, like, not necessarily embodying the spirit of another creature. Now in nature, it's a lot different because they're just nature's just so in the flow. It can't really be related in the same way. But, if you're grounded in like, I am a flower, for example, with the nature thing, if you're just grounded in that, then that's what you are, and you're connected to the source through that. You're connected to the earth. You're connected to the essence of what it means to be a flower, to just embody that's the spirit of part of nature in that way. And so, it feels similarly, like, in the human now, like, to relate that back to something a little bit probably more relatable, like in the human sense, if you can connect inside to that, I am that I am, you can't even really put a name on it, because a name is just a label on the body, but it's, you are so much more than your name and identification. But if you're grounded in what you are, and able to say, I am that I am, then when other things come along that are not you, and you can clearly identify what those are, then you don't necessarily take it on as much. And I think probably that's highly sensitive, picking up other people's negative emotions or negative feedback and everything like that, really comes from a lack of centeredness in that self-awareness. And I definitely can relate to that a lot on like the topic of, if you look on Spirit Science, if I'm like going through the new comments or anything like that on YouTube, there's so much love, and it'll be like, oh, it's great, I love you so much, it's great. And then one person's like, like, this is the most just bullshit pseudoscience garbage I've ever seen. Blah, blah, blah. And it's a lot. I've got a lot better at it since then, before I'd be like, and it's like, no, I love you, man. Like just being able to respond with love. But this is really just kind of a reflection on, honestly, like everything that everyone here has been sharing and saying over the last, 40 minutes so far. So I just want to express gratitude for everybody kind of coming in and sharing their piece about it. Mm-hmm. Also, welcome back, Devin. I hope that your internet's working a little bit better now. So yeah.
I think I'll just add something to it really quick. One of our chats a while ago, where I think it was actually Benoit, if I say it right, who said that, it's very important to learn how to like hold space for others. And when you actually can't, because your cup is empty, and you actually need to fill your cup in order to have that space for others. Sometimes you can, sometimes you're like, wow, my cup is overflowing. I got all this energy, and I can give you the time of day, and you can do whatever you want with it. I'm going to give you all this love, and you're going to take it to a roller coaster and do whatever you want with it and come back. It's fine. I have overflowing. But sometimes, like, you know what, man, like, I really need some time for myself. I kind of need to like get all this energy back. I just kind of want to meditate. Just, I'll give me a week or so, like just hold more love towards, just like everyone has been saying, like more love towards you and focus on you and creating that space so eventually you could have space for others.
For sure, and that ties. I think that was on collective healing. We're talking about, healing the self is essential to being able to affect others. And, when you fix, when you can get over your own obstacles, you make it easier for others to do the same. So, yeah, that's a good point.
Can I just add something here as well? Sorry? Because I really enjoy what everyone's saying. I wanted to add in one final piece on how what we're talking about with responding to negativity and how to defend yourself against and how to defend yourself against an attack, for example. Or there's a way in which we act where we are almost too giving. If we try to help too much, then it can actually have a negative effect as well. So if someone is calling for help, a lot of the suffering has come from people ignoring that call or just doing nothing or not doing enough. I've noticed if I try and help people too much, then it's overbearing, and then that can become just as much a hindrance. So as an empath, there's a tendency to help to the fullest degree and do everything you can, just like
I think we might have just lost Anthony. I'm going to say too, like for anybody who's struggling with their internet, just maybe kill the video feed and it'll help the audio just kind of flow. But Anthony, we'll eagerly wait for your return. And yeah, so why don't we kind of keep going on this topic though? Oh yeah, Joshua, please, thank you. Yeah, take it away.
Everyone keeps dancing around this, and I really wanted to just kind of hopefully tie it all together with this idea of, it's like what Aaron said a moment ago. If I'm sitting here and I'm feeling these thoughts, these feelings that may or may not come from me, I'm going to color those with my own issues. And so it may not be what they actually thought of me, but my interpretation of what they thought of me emotionally. And then that's going to have my own emotional coloring to it as well. And so all that does is it just reminds me of that Alan Watts quote. He talks about this old Zen joke. If a man says he should see a psychologist, or if a man says he wants to see a psychologist, he should probably have his head examined. And it's the idea that if you suppose there's a problem, then you are in fact creating it. You are asserting it by creating the framework for it, by asking the question, saying, what's wrong with me? Well, there was nothing wrong with you in the first place, all right? There's no negative or good things that happen to you except how you choose to define and label them. I don't like to use those terms. I like contrast. I took it from Abraham Hicks, and it's a really good term because really that's all it all is. It's just contrast for us to sort through and decide what we like and what we don't like. And that will even change as we grow. So I think that if you're looking for how to stop someone from taking advantage of you as an empath, the only place you need to look is the mirror and ask yourself, why do I feel I'm unable to prevent people from taking advantage of me?
Yeah, that's great. That's exactly it. Yeah, it's coming back, right? That choice of how you move forward. Yeah. And you also touched on an interesting part about illuminating our own emotional baggage, because that's what triggers our fear of inadequacy in these situations. It's our own inner working that prevents us from engaging and making that choice to move past what we perceive as the block. Sure.
That was perfect. You reminded me that I wanted to follow with the idea that when, you know, we have that baggage for a reason. It's a lesson for us to grow with.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have the ability to sense this negativity, quote unquote, in others through some resonance, some experience that we have had that is a similar resonance to them. And so that's what we're feeling in them, is our own similarity to their experience. And what we learned from our lesson could help them with theirs. But it's just that it can, not that it's our job to, and not that they have to listen to us. We have the ability to feel it, and that's an opportunity for us to take that growth lesson by opening up and being vulnerable, even if they're not accepting of it.
That's true.
Beautiful.
I actually a question, not for me, it's from a friend, but it kind of relates to the topic that we already have going on. It's basically about karmic lessons and how hi. It's about lessons, and people say that you have with somebody and you feel like it's been too much, and you feel like over the situation, over the relationship, it's unresolved. That's what she feels. I'm like channeling her. It's unresolved and feels like I don't know what happened. She feels because of that person. It feels resolved.
We're just getting some feedback on your mic. It's kind of hard to hear. I was wondering if we could maybe just try, just kill that video. Let's try it again.
Can you hear me better? Can you hear me better?
Yes. Yeah, so far,
okay.
yeah. I'll let you know if it goes weird again.
All right. So she wants to let go of this relationship, of this karmic lesson, but she feels that if she lets it go, that other person might not be able to let it go as well as her, and she feels responsible for that other person, and she just wants to know how to continue without cycling that karmic lesson, and I kind of like told her some things that I would do, but yeah, I wanted to open that up if you guys how to deal with like another with a karmic lesson where you feel responsible for the other person, whether how they deal with it, and if they're not ready to move on rather than you are.
I have a response that I feel coming through me at this moment I'd love to be able to share. This comes through part of my teachings through Mahajriya, which would just illustrate that if there is a karmic lesson, really both parties have their essence to what they need to learn from that experience. So we'll say for your friend specifically, their lesson would have likely been also going through the whole experience, and further the information that they're gaining through, we'll say, this breakup or through this experience to allow them to be able to have that experience. Like, they have a really deep lesson going on there at the same time too. Like, it's not just the other person needs to let go, because that indicates that that person is still holding on to the fear of being judged by the other person, letting the other person down, whatever that might be, is still going on as their karmatic lesson at the same time. So there's always a balance. And for me, what I love going to is like, there's a person right now who's kind of like attacking our studio and doing everything that they can to like end spirit science. And it's this really nasty stuff that Jordan and I are currently like doing everything we can to work through. But the way that it's coming up is really like paralleling with this empathy, to really understand that person, to give them the wholest and completest compassion, and then look back at ourselves too and refining our own path and being like, not just like, okay, how do we heal this other person? But no, how do we look at ourselves and go, well, what do I really need to learn? What does the studio in this example need to learn to refine our approach, to change how we interact with the world, to make this experience be the diving board from which we propel ourselves up into another level, you know, and continue that journey. So it's a bigger thing, but I would always say like karma's always in balance. It's never like, oh, you're gonna get bad karma later. Like the way Maha says it is just, there is karma. You know, it's like a continual thing. And so being able to look at that and just go, it's never not in balance. If ever I'm feeling something that's weighing me down, it's probably because of something that's still in balance, and it's just a sign for me to work on another degree. Shout out to Amy.
Sorry?
Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. That was, I'm happy that you spoke to that and kind of what's happening a little bit internally, because I was feeling the same thing. And I think the only thing I'll just add to that piece is like, recently we went down to Rhythmia and did plant medicine, ayahuasca for the first time, or it was my first time experience, not necessarily Aaron's, but but one of the things that kind of came up during one of the ceremonies, the first one actually, was that specific vibration of the taking down spirit science, energy, that kind of outside attack kind of feeling. I fully saw how I had essentially created it through, and what the experience was actually like this extreme empathy, because I wanted to help someone so much that I was essentially willing to take their trauma and tell them what they wanted to hear without reflecting on and owning and holding my own space, because I was just so in like not myself. And that was another kind of like reconnecting with who I really am, during those ceremonies was a huge part of it, and like not doubting that. But from that schism of I'm not who I am, I'm gonna just be what other people, I'm gonna fit to the puzzle piece that other people want me to be instead of being myself. It actually led to a lot of drama, not just this one specifically, but some other stuff that, again, not going to get into right now, but it all happened because I was lying to myself about who I am, because I didn't know who I was. And I guess I didn't want to believe it, because there's a lot of responsibility being who you really are. And I think that's true for all of us, because when you're being who you really are, I mean, you have to listen to spirit, and you got to trust, and you got to let go. And sometimes it means, breaking free of some old habits and patterns and belief systems that just, might have served you in the past for your safety or whatever, but they don't anymore. So I want to say welcome to Priscilla, who just jumped in a couple minutes ago. And I wanted to ask you if you had anything to add on the subject of empathy.
Well, definitely. I actually have a hi, everybody. Sorry, I missed the meditation, but here I am. Yeah, I'm actually going through some things. I just came down here to Mexico to visit my family, and some old patterns, and I realized how I am this empathic person that carries all the weight of my family's problem. Like, even though they don't do it or purposely, I always drag everything, and yeah, it's been quite the trip. And it's funny, of course, that your guys are talking about this, right? It's just, you have to realize that you have to let yourself go, that let yourself vibrate to your own heart. And once you do that, you realize that you have to let go of all these baggage that you have, that it doesn't belong to you. If somebody else doesn't want to realize even though it hurts you that they're not doing something right, it's up to them. Like you don't have to. It doesn't have to affect you the way it affects you. Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
may, I actually, for me personally, since we've been talking a lot about empaths, and I know that's been brought up, that we tend, it's a little bit, sometimes things are harder for us just because we feel we go through what everybody's going through all around us. For me personally, something I've been practicing like just within the last couple of days, actually, for about a week now is, by the way, is the sound clear? Is there any choppiness? All right, cool. I wrote down a prayer. Actually, I created a 5-verse prayer that focuses on the 5 things within your life that you are thankful for. For me personally, I just tell myself, starting off with the highest thing I can think of, I'm thankful for God. And when I think of those things, I think of all things, because I think of how God is actually James given physical form. God is all things that are above that, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm thankful for the fact that God allows me to live the life that I'm living, which leads to the next verse. I'm thankful for my life, i.e. the people that I have relationships with, my fiance, my future kids that I want to have, and anything that comes in and out of my life that may affect who I am, which leads to the 3rd verse. I'm thankful for who I am. And usually by about the time whenever I say the 3rd verse of me saying I'm thankful for who I am, I don't know, what was originally spinning inward into me and pulling in all the emotion from around me inward, like pauses whenever I reach the 3rd verse, because it's like I reach a state of I am only who I am. I'm not pulling anything around me. I'm not focusing on who's around me, because the 3rd verse is about the self. And from there, I follow through with people that I think about that are my blood, who love me the most. We were my family. I'm thankful for my family, my fiance, my friends, people who support me, people who've always been there for me, the people who are closest to me. And from there, the last verse is I am thankful for my friends, which is the people that I'm acquainted to, that are always there for me, even if they're not family, the people who have my back, even though I never expected them to, because they're basically strangers to me. You know, the prayer is all about taking a second to focus on the positive aspects of everything around you, but also only focus on yourself. And whenever I say this prayer, it just turns off everything. All the negativity just stops. And instead of negativity flowing inward, I allow gratitude and positivity to flow outward. And I can see it affect the people around me. I can see it change on their faces. Like it's naturally, I'm an empath, but whenever I'm in this state, I become like an exuder of positive emotion. It's like it reverses entirely. I wanted to put that out there and see what you guys thought. Have you experienced anything along those lines?
I think that's really cool that you mentioned that. One of my favorite researchers, Nassim Haramein, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He talks about how, you know, there's this cliche that we create our reality, but he mentions that at the same time, reality is creating us, right? So there's this interplay between the external world and, like you said, you know, everything sort of being receptive of all these things. But then when you get to that 3rd part, I am thankful for who I am, you said it kind of shuts off and you start exuding things, right? So it's cool because as an empath, we can filter in the entire, you know, a lot of external things, but then there's a responsibility to take that, sort of churn it, filter it, and then exude something that is a response to that. And so we can learn from it, and then we can output something based on what we've learned. And that's a really cool understanding to be able to not just be subject to the world, but to be contributional to how you can affect it as well.
We're like our own toroidal fields, right? That's great.
Yes.
Well said. So Aaron and I are actually going to be doing a workshop on this same topic here in the next little bit. That's actually at a local place. So we do have to start wrapping up this call a little bit earlier than normal, but I appreciate everyone flowing with me with that. So even if everyone's like, no, like, well, but we did have a request in the comments for a card, to draw a card at the end of the thing, at the end of the call. And then we'll do a little closing meditation. How does that sound for everybody?
Sounds perfect. My deck's still here, but I think Karen had mentioned she has a deck and might want to, unless you want to pull one.
Well, you have half. I have the other half because we were doing some.
I was wondering if I could pull the card.
Absolutely. Do you have Patch Tarot or any other tarot deck?
Actually, I have my old Thoth Tarot, but I actually do have Patch Tarot. I bought it with a Patreon supporter. So.
Oh wow, great.
Let me go with that real quick.
Ooh, well, in the meantime, Karen just pulled one up here. It looks like the Three of Swords. That's an intense one, but that is exactly on point with this this discussion.
Yeah, that and this.
Wait, it's like all the cards. Devin, please pull one in. We're all getting here. We're all getting in here. Karen had the Three of Swords. Aaron had the Way, I think, or the Truth. He had the Truth. I just got the Ace of Discs, so that's one. I'm excited to see what you get, Devin.
Now we have a tarot reading.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Full spread
here. I forget her name in this moment. I'm sorry. Speak your own truth on our chat. She just pulled the Lovers.
Summer.
Summer, that's right. Sorry, Summer.
All right,
I love you.
So I'll shuffle on the deck, and this is the card that happened to fall out. Let's see what it is. Ha! We got my soul number, the number 1, the Magician. That's kind of funny that that's the card that popped out.
That's a great one too. So what do we got here then? We've got like that first creation, the resolution of the awareness of suffering, of sorrow, of like the mental, emotional, like getting wrapped up in your thoughts about how you're feeling and like pulling you down. We've got the presence of God, right? We've got the first step on a journey. We've got
the Tower.
The Tower, the falling and collapse of the old way and the old awareness. Oh, Benoit.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like my favorite card.
Yeah, that's a good way to close that for sure.
I think so. That was fun though. We had so many cards there.
I think it's kind of funny how they all tie together to actually represent what it means to be an empath.
Yeah.
Very much so. So I wanna open it up. Does anybody want to do a closing meditation? No, Karen's shaking her head.
I'll do one if no one wants to.
I think Philip also might have just said.
I kind of do, but I did draw the card, so like I don't know.
Devin or Joshua, you guys can take it away.
Either way is good.
I just love you guys. I want to hear all of them. But yeah, Joshua, why don't you take it away?
Okay. Everybody, before we get started, I'm going to ask you to think of a happy memory. It doesn't matter what it is. You're not going to tell anyone. It's just your focal point for this memory. Something that feels good to you. Some experience or memory that just brings you that feeling, that a little bit of a smile to your face. And that's what's going to be our anchor memory. This is my closing meditation, is my response to How do you deal with the negativity of others, especially when you're in crowds? You find that anchor memory and you sink into it. So, take a deep breath. And then just let the air out. Don't force it. Don't rush it. And as you go all the way, you'll feel your lungs begin to go the other direction. You don't have to force the air in. It just wants to come in, nourish you, and then let it out. It's almost like sitting at the beach. You just hear the waves lapping in and then going out. With each breath, more calm, more centered in who you are and how you feel in this moment. And as you do so, think back to a time when you were happy, where a smile played across your face and a laugh was waiting to escape your lips. And as you think of it, remember how it felt in your body in that moment. Feel that feeling again now. Still breathing in and out, gently, easily, freely. That sensation of the tide rushing in and out, that feeling all throughout your body. Like a comforting wave in the water that you can just relax into and let it carry you. Enjoy it for as long as you like. I love you. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much. Okay, well, this was a wonderful call, you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Also, thank you, Devin, for joining us. It's a pleasure to meet you. And Priscilla as well. It's good to see you again. And of course, everybody else who have a long time coming back. It's always a pleasure to see your smiling faces over and over. So the final thing that I feel compelled to share in this call as we bring it to a close is that there's some exciting news with Patch to Row, and that is that there's Aaron going, oh, and that is that we actually connected with a new print company to produce the cards, and in that. One of the limitations that came, it's an amazing opportunity, and it's a really an increase of the quality of the card. So we're really excited about it. One of the limitations of the thing is that the cards are going to be slightly smaller. So what we decided was that in light of a smaller card, we didn't want the images to be smaller. So yesterday, pretty much, so like, whoa, I'm in the background there. Joshua, I'm sorry, I'm just looping on the mic. But I thought, okay, either way. No, it's good. Yesterday was pretty much a full day spent on redesigning almost a borderless edition of Patch to Row, which is edge to edge. And so I'll share very briefly here. There's still borders on the top and bottom, but the sides are clean. And if I do a screen share briefly of just this one window, you can see one of these four was chosen. And we've designed them, and I'll let you just think about which one it is and which one it could be. But that's sort of the new design that we're sort of experimenting with. That's like right to the edge of the card, so it's kind of like much more like looking into a window. So I'll let you think about that. I just wanted to share that because it's very exciting, and we're like just kind of giddy about it. But yeah, that also means that the current edition with the borders are now going to be phased out. We've only got a couple hundred left or so, and then once they're gone. So just wanted to throw that out there and like let everybody know that that's a big transition that's sort of happening, and how exciting.
And actually, I just want to say too, like in regards to the quality of the new cards, it should be going from these original ones were printed at about 300 DPI, which is like the highest quality standard print. Our new one is 4 times that at 1200. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
Yeah, that was largely the reason that we wanted to switch it, and we also got a thicker card stock, so they'll be a little bit more durable. In case anybody, there was a few comments about them being a little more flimsy. So, yeah, how exciting. So with that, we're going to bid you guys adieu. Thank you again so much for joining us, and looking forward to seeing you all on the full moon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
Love you guys. Take care.
Thank you. Have fun.
Bye now.